So I was recently sent this bicycle light from GearBest and asked to do an honest review. So this is it. My first impressions were that this is quite a bright light, the casing seems solid, the fixing is simple and it's easy to operate. The first thing I noticed once I hit the road was that the brightest part of the beam was very concentrated. There is an outer ring of light too, but it's not so bright. The light performs quite well as a spotlight, as you can see on the tree here. The next thing I noticed was that the light beam was pointing to the left. The fixing method is very simple, it's just a rubber O-ring which goes around the handlebar. Therefore there's no left or right adjustment available. My handlebars, as well as most I guess, will not be made out of plain straight tubing, they are styled and shaped. This is obviously quite a big issue, as when riding along dark roads the light beam is pointed to the verge and not straight ahead where you want it to be. This issue is amplified by the fact that the bright part of the beam is just so narrow. Clearly I had to modify this somehow. This is the O-ring that hooks on the front of the light and then under the handlebar to the back of the light. Here's what I did to modify the light to stop it from pointing to the left. I actually modified my handlebar. I wrapped a piece of string around it a few times on the right hand side, followed by a piece of electrical tape. This lifted up the right side of the light to make it sit straight and point forwards. You may need to tweak this idea a little bit to suit your handlebar shape, but this worked first time for me. I found this also made the light grip better on my handlebar, which prevented it from being knocked downwards every time I hit a bump. The light comes in two varieties, a battery pack model and a USB model. This one is the USB model, which means to power it you plug it into a power bank. I find this best as there are some great high capacity power banks out there, and a lot of people are beginning to own one of these now to charge their phones while out and about. So with the light modified, it was time to go out and test it again. As it got darker in the forest, I began to see that this light would not be good for this type of riding. The bright spot in the beam literally seemed like a spot and simply doesn't light up a large enough area to be useful. So I took it out on some cycle tracks, and this is where the light was most useful. With cycle tracks mostly being quite straight and narrow, the light seemed to suit this type of riding fairly well. With no traffic coming the other way, like on roads, the light could be tilted upwards more than usual to make use of that spotlight beam. On the roads, the light needs to be tilted further down, and the bright spot is more distracting than it is useful. So to wrap up, this light might be worth considering if you ride mostly on cycle tracks. If you don't mind having to modify the fixing, you've got yourself a bike light for around $12 US or £8 UK. If you do any other type of riding, this is probably not the best light for you.